Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Welcome to another episode of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we try to help you figure out everything to do related with subscriptions. I'm excited and honored to be joined this week with Mark Ritz, the CEO and co-founder of Carnivore Snax. Mark, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, man. Appreciate you having me. Long time coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mark and I have talked a lot about subscriptions, memberships in the past. I think he's running a really great program. I talked to a lot of different brands, and I'm not worried about this going to his head, but Mark knows what he's talking about. So I'm excited to have him on the show here talking this. And Mark, I'd love to hear just a little bit more for everybody, for myself and for everybody listening at home, just a little bit more about your background, how you ended up at starting Carnivore Snax and your journey. Yeah,
for sure. I started my professional work career with Costco wholesale. Whether or not you want to call unloading chickens from an oven professional, I consider it to be, because it has definitely taught me a lot about who I am and what I wanted to do in life. So with Costco, I eventually ended up working behind the membership desk and really starting to see, how the business was impacted now that I had a computer in front of me, and really started to care about just strategy behind business and growth and how to build a relationship with a customer and how that relationship is impacted by lifetime spend. And right. So I have a lot to thank Costco for in terms of empowering me to go out and figure out what I was good at and start my own thing. So I ended up starting my first business about 6-7 years ago. It was a membership platform for natural products. We would vet products and their ingredients, and it was very boutique style. So a lot of small companies. I was passionate about promoting smaller companies, and ran that for about 2 years. Only worked its way up to about a couple hundred members, and just kind of found out that I was good at email marketing, and shut that business down. And then got into email marketing through a lot of the people that I built relationships with through that first platform. So that was my entry into e-commerce.
I love that. And it's interesting when we talk about, I think the two most classic examples of great subscription/membership programs are Amazon Prime and Costco membership. So you saw firsthand working at Costco, a lot of that value there. So tell me more about Carnivore Snax, because I know obviously know about it. We've talked quite a bit about it in the past, but I'd love for everyone to hear more about kind of what you're offering and how that's going.
Yeah, for sure. Carnivore Snax ended up coming about through my co-founder who created the product. She reached out to me one day and just asked if I knew anybody who could make a website. And I had met her through my first business. So again, back to the first business, a lot to thank for that failure. That failure was definitely not a failure, but she sent me the product and I was just absolutely blown away. I was like, you got something here for sure. And I just asked if I could help build the business and grow it. And she was like, well, if it wasn't for you, I'd be selling this product on Etsy. So it was a good partnership from the beginning. She had done the carnivore diet for almost 3 years, very strict, and created a name for herself in that space as she would document her journey every day. Doing that, built an audience. And I had recognized the correct way to start a business from learning the wrong way to start a business. Wrong way, launch to crickets. Cool idea, launch to crickets. Right way, build an audience, launch a product. So she had already had the audience, and I had already built the skill set to continue just to sell to people that already wanted it. And that's really how the partnership was born. We launched April of 2020. We did our Kickstarter, did a couple $100,000, and got our website live December of 2020. And so, we offer a very unique meat snack. It's more like a meat pastry. So it's got an airy crisp and it melts in your mouth because there's still a lot of fat. Whereas traditional jerky is chewy or rubbery. Right. Or there's the opposite side, which is a complete hard like chip. There are some chip options kind of for us, but we really, really focus on that texture where it just melts in your mouth and it feels like meat candy.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So I love that. So you went from Kickstarter. So she had an audience, Kickstarter, launching the site. Like, what was that like from a transition? I mean, I've talked to a lot of other Kickstarter brands before. I mean, sometimes it's not always like you get that initial audience, but it doesn't translate into additional sales down the road. Were you guys able to find success with that? I mean, were you able to build retargeting audiences, or was it really all just about being able to use email to get into them over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of both. So we launched on the backs of carnivore influencers who she had met and built relationships with through her 3 years of doing the diet, seeded product out. They all kind of shared at the same time. We had a landing page that we were able to ask them to drive people to. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it was very authentic and easy to convert because these guys weren't affiliates. These were people that just tried the product and were like, there's nothing else out there like this. You have to try it. So just go put your email in. And I think because they weren't sharing codes, discount codes, all these different things, it really made the virality convert nicely. And then once we kind of collected that pool of emails, we did run some ads, which in that landscape, it was very different. 6 years ago, five or not, sorry, this would have been 3 years ago. Landscape was still different, really easy to get like quarter leads. And we just had a really good size email list. And that's what made the Kickstarter so successful.
Right.
And if you are going to do a Kickstarter, your success is predicated on that email list for sure. In terms of how it transitioned to our company, I will say the most boring answer, probably multiple times on this. Product is absolutely everything, and people loved it, and you could see it. And so the people that bought on Kickstarter, when we were able to execute and deliver those orders by December, their next question is like, when is this live? I want to
Right.
get some.
Yeah, I love this. And it's so fascinating to me too, because I think one of the reasons I was excited to have you on the show is your experience as an email marketer and some of the technical things you're doing, like from a marketing perspective to keep growing the business. But hearing that story, I think that a lot of brands forget that. They almost lose their way in the sense of like, you don't keep true to this authenticity. You have an audience. There's a reason the product exists. And yes, the product has to be high quality. It has to deliver on those promises. But it's not like you guys just decided, hey, this is going to be a great idea. We're going to start selling it. It's more like, hey, somebody's developed this. There's an audience. There's a mission behind this, that carnivore diet. I didn't even, honestly, it's like so obvious now hearing that, but I'd never put two and two together. Obviously, this is something that's going to do very, very well with people on a carnivore diet. So I'm curious then for you, like, was subscriptions offered right away? Once you had the site up and you had gotten through the Kickstarter, when did subscriptions come into play?
Subscriptions came actually at the man, it was late. It was over a year after we had launched. We were really trying to execute on the supply side because the demand was so aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like we were super focused on launching a subscription plan to just sell, 10 to 15% off product that we were already selling at full price.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
once we were able to execute on the supply side and get more, we did launch, and it was a great launch. I mean, I think on like day one, we might have signed up 700, 800 subscribers. And obviously a lot of the legwork comes after launching and keeping them on the retention side and getting new subscribers in. But yeah, it was not right away. I mean, you got to look at your own situation. Um, and for us, we manufacture our own product. We've got 50 employees at a 12,000 square foot warehouse. And so for me, I got to manage capacity and I got to manage supply. And sometimes, a lot of times, it does tie my hands behind my back when it comes to like marketing and just being able to just aggressively market
Right.
all the time.
Right. No, that makes sense. And that it's interesting because I feel like, and we might have talked about this before, but Milk Bar has that same issue. They're another brand with a really strong, like they have a strong audience, people that are big fans, but they can only make so many cakes at a time, right? They're working to build their capacity. And so this idea, and the reason I bring this up in the segue is because I think that we're often a lot of brands too are so concerned with, hey, how can I get somebody to buy, let alone try to get a subscription, as opposed to, hey, I've got tons of people that have demand for this. How can I capture more value? And that's where memberships become really, really appealing, right? Because you actually have to start to find ways to differentiate between the people coming in your door, who's willing to give you $100, who's willing to give you 110, 120, 150. And so talk about that journey as well, because I mentioned Milk Bar because they've done the same thing. They have all these products. They've developed a membership program that people are paying more for to get exclusive access to certain things. How has that played out at Carnivore Snack with a membership? And we're going to talk more about subscriptions and memberships together, but I'm curious about the launch of the membership, the methodology behind that, and how it's gone for you.
It's definitely been, as one would think, challenging to figure out how to juggle both. But we've definitely proven that there is room for both. For me, I've always been obsessed with the membership model, just coming from Costco. And I wanted this to be a part of Carnivore Snacks in the beginning, even before I understood what value I was going to build around a membership.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of bias when it comes to the belief in that. But I also am somebody that absolutely believes you have to have a subscription offering, because there's different values and you just have to be very clear in explaining that. Over time, I believe most experiences on the subscription side have fallen victim to what I just say is set it and forget it, right? It was supposed to create this level of convenience where you could just sign up and get recurring shipments. And that is part of the benefit of being a subscriber.
Right.
But in a landscape where it's become so competitive, it's like you absolutely do have to focus on trying to do more on the subscription side. And there's new softwares out that is making that super easy. Ways to reward your long-term subscribers and stuff like that. But because we've been trained, I think, for so long that it's called subscribe and save, it's just and most brands don't execute on an incredible experience, an engaging experience. It has become somewhat perceived as set it and forget it. And
right.
in many scenarios, there's no avoiding that. And I think that that's what opens the door to both. Like, I really think that you can actually build more value into a membership based on the expectation that subscribe and save is set it and forget it. And so what I did, what helped guide the creation of our membership, which actually has surpassed our subscription program in terms of the number of subscribers. And by the way, like, I'll be the first to admit, like, there's bias that's leaned towards that. So I bet we could be a lot better on the subscription side. There's a lot of room for improvement there for Carnivore Snacks. But I took a step back and I said, what are the things that, like, I've really wanted to do as an operator of this business that I just haven't been able to do that would be of benefit to one of our customers? And the first thing that came to my mind is there are so many cool, unique types of meat out there that we just cannot get a lot of. And with the amount of customers and the amount of growth we've experienced, it would not be a great experience for me to say, hey, we've got Wagyu available. There's only 300 units. And then we have, 50,000 customers. And it's just disappointing people that never get to try it.
You get into bot world, you get into bots and people trying to auto buy and all those types of drops things. It ends up being really messy, right?
Very true. So I said, well, that's great in itself. Let's take something that is harder to source in volumes and let's put it behind a paid wall. And in order to not put a ton of pressure on us from a product development side, I'm like, how can I take the pressure off by utilizing the membership as well? Like, okay, we launched this, all these new products, like, people are expecting new products every month, but that's really hard to do. Okay, let's go to the Costco model and let's add another benefit and give 5% cash back on absolutely everything people buy. The AOV of our store is comfortably above $100. So $5, for every $100 spent relative to our LTV numbers seemed very, very fair. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the two main benefits that our members are getting. That's enough for them. And so with subscription, it was just harder to do that because again, subscription is it's like a contract, right? It's like a recurring contract, and we wanted to build engagement.
Yeah, I think that's true, especially when we're thinking about snacks. I think that subscribe and save with snacks can be a little bit tricky because unless you know how much you're buying or eating, like, when we buy stuff for our kids, like they'll eat something out over and over again and then suddenly won't touch it again. Like, and so I do like that idea of changing that kind of like focus, right? So you're looking for people that are wanting a different experience. So the cashback, do you feel like the cashback is effective because it incentivizes people just to shop a little bit more? Because instead of me thinking about I might get a snack somewhere else, it's easier to get it here because I get cash back. Is that the primary reason why people are using it, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, there's more competitors popping up, and I think the fact that we have this membership offering and this reward aspect, the cashback, it does play a part in their thoughts. And well, why would I go buy it anywhere else when I can buy it here? Obviously, quality is like our number one focus to
Right.
differentiate us, but it has tremendous impact, and it also just has tremendous impact on getting people to buy more, anyways. I mean, when you look at LTV numbers, even when you look at Costco, like I remember the annual spend of an executive member who was the $120 membership. It was over $3,000 for that household per year.
Jeez.
Whereas the $50, now it's $60 membership, it was like $900. So it's so important to get that, to get members up to that $120 level where they're earning cash back. And so for us, it's really played out the same. We don't have two levels of membership, but it is the only offering that we have that is going to give you 5% cash back.
I love that. So what are some of the complications you've seen with trying to get people to be both subscribers and in the membership program? Like, I know we've talked about that offline before, but I'm curious if it's something you're willing to share about things that have worked or not worked with you as you're trying to figure out how to get people to try both or be part of both.
I think the hardest part is more on the internal side. It's like, okay, if we're faced with some decisions, especially with how hard it is for us to build inventory, it's like who is getting priority shipments? Like who do we want to ship to first? I think that's where a lot of the complications has come. Now, a lot of people, the ultimate goal for us is to get people to become a subscriber and a member because you still do
Right.
get the 5% cash back on your recurring. So we have a ton of subscribers who are members. But when you are measuring the two, it's just about measuring who should get this specific value in a time where we felt creative, whether it's some sort of insert or some sort of special promotion, right? Building promotions around your promotions and catering them to
Hmm.
members and catering them to subscribers. Do they get both? Members paid $59 up front to have this membership. Subscribers are paying every month for the product. So that's been the hardest, is just really how to personalize the customer experience around those two different buckets.
Absolutely. And then you had a tweet that I think is, I mean, it's part of the D2C Twitterverse. I think a few months ago that was explaining your LTV for, regular one-time purchasers, subscribers, and then subscribers and memberships. Would you mind breaking down those numbers just a little bit, whether you want to update them or not? I think people seeing or hearing the magnitude of difference between being able to offer extra value on top of the subscription is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I definitely posted that, just really excited to see what to me felt like authentic data. I got some pushback on it, and rightfully so, just because we were still so new. And the
Mm-hmm.
membership had launched, I think it was maybe 3 or 6 months, somewhere between 3 and 6 months, prior to me posting that. And so when I was running this data over a year data set, LTV data set, we had to remember that the membership had only been live for that 3 to 6 months. And
Okay.
so we were looking at preliminary just shopping habits or profiles. So the people that joined the membership, their LTV was, I believe it was 3 times higher. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe it was 3 times higher than a regular subscriber. Obviously, the LTV, it was significantly over $1,000 LTV, 12-month LTV when you're a subscriber and a member. So
Right.
there's no doubt in my mind that the impact is incredible. It's just the pushback that I got, and again, rightfully so, is were these people already spending that money? Did anything change based on the membership fee?
Right.
And for us, you know, because the data set was so small, what it told me was the profile of a shopper and not necessarily the impact of the membership fee. So it was my ideal customer needs to be a member based off of the initial LTV numbers, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, it does make sense because you're talking about, like, one of the things that I harp on a lot is, like, you have to try to find ways to identify who the most valuable customer is. And it's hard to just go in and say, like, oh, this cohort of people I'll buy 50 or 100% more than the average. But what's a common denominator? Is it, can you, unless you're layering extra data in there or looking at demographic data, is it location? Is it income? Is it, like, what other, you know, points can you get from that? And so the membership gives you a very simple way to say, and that's where I think the beauty of it is you're allowing your best customers to self-select themselves. Hey,
Correct.
they're already viewing themselves as this isn't just like a loyalty card that you hand out to everybody, right? Like, it's not like you're running a little hot dog stand and here's a punch card to give to everybody, and you don't really know who's using them or who's not. It's, hey, if you have to pay $1 to get the punch card, oh, interesting. You care about this enough, that much more, and the data is almost always, I can say this confidently, is going to support this idea of somebody's willing to pay for access to something, even if it's a little bit, is going to be a totally different type of customer than somebody who isn't. So I think that makes sense, and that's a great way to start identifying people. And you did mention this for anybody who's listening, how Mark is making decisions on what offers and promos and who to include or who not to include, because they are somewhat resource constrained. But I think in general, if you're going to do, like, say if you were to run a special event where you would invite everybody out to see how some of the product is made, you're not just going to make that a blanket invite to anybody, right? You're going to invite the people you think are going to get the most value, find it's the most fun, and or you want to reward your most valuable customers with that. So you now have a method in place for being able to do that. Mark, one thing too, I'd like to talk, just transitioning a little bit. I think one of the, missed opportunities with a lot of brands is getting into what's happening in the back end, right? So even if somebody is a subscriber, how are you upselling? How are you trying to get somebody from that is a one-time purchaser into the subscription or membership process? And you've mentioned your skill and background as an email marketer. I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about that process, and some of the tactics or methods you're employing to get people to make those actions.
Yeah. We're pretty proactive in just trying every month to do an email that is like subscription based. And the reason why I like to do it from a campaign perspective is because it's so easy to like set up flows and just like forget that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And forget to visit them and measure them and their engagement. So what we like to do is we definitely like to look at click data, right? So any campaigns that we do based off of subscriptions of people who are not subscribers, like any clicks, like we're putting them into a segment, into a bucket of like potential interest. We're doing that with the flows as well. And then we're just sending those people more email about subscriptions.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll do a small little offer on that first subscription purchase, which we'll see bumps from those. But it's really, for us, it's really just about tracking clicks that are expressing interest in subscriptions. We do it on the website as well. So if they're Klaviyo contact and they're cookied, we can see that they've expressed interest through that, updating dynamic segments like that. In terms of membership, we have inserts for those. So basically, anybody that is buying their third time or greater gets a tag in our fulfillment system. It's no longer tag. We just moved over to fulfill.io, and we've had to figure out how to do it without tagging. But it's something that tells our fulfillment team to place an insert in the box. And that's definitely had a positive impact as we follow our week growth over growth or weekly growth of the membership platform. And then also it's just, I encourage everybody to work like really, really closely with their subscription management platform on ways to help build systems that focus on retention. I think Stay has probably done the best job at it. I have a custom solution, so I'm not with Stay, but I think there's some really cool, just really cool ways that you can leverage some of their updates to improve retention. And then at the end of the day, like retention is product first.
Right. What's one of the things? What's one of the tools or automations or something that your custom platform has done recently that you think has really benefited your program?
I think, the most recent one might feel a little late to the party. A little bit more flexibility over just the SMS management and being able to just easily switch out products. That has definitely helped. And I think the one part where they struggled in the beginning was just like not enough data at the individual level to allow us to get creative at certain moments, right? At certain purchase points. There's been one small upgrade to that to where we can look at, hey, is this third recurring purchase, fourth recurring, and try to do something creative around it. It's still not as easy as it is in some of the other ones, but I do think that is like an out of the box that's needed. You should have an easy way to reward subscribers who have been with you for a certain amount of time.
Absolutely. And yeah, you mentioned like the ability to like swap things through SMS. Those features have been around for a little while, but aren't necessarily universally adopted yet either. A lot of brands like to avoid SMS sometimes because it makes it feel like they're prompting cancellations. But I do think, just as a general, like if I can get on my soapbox for a moment, like identifying what you need to drive business, and then making sure you're getting that from your software provider. Otherwise, I see too many brands just switching just because somebody else is better at marketing their platform. So yeah, paying attention to that. I'd be curious too then, Mark, as we kind of get close to wrapping up, just some ideas or things that you've seen work, whether it's from a conversion, like a product page design standpoint, an email tagline or an email sequence, anything you've seen that's been helpful or beneficial to Carnivore Snax and converting or retaining subscribers. You mentioned like inserts and things like that, which I think are very, very powerful that people should be doing as well. But I was wondering if there's anything else that comes to mind in the last year or two that you've seen be effective or even surprising because it seemed counterintuitive.
Yeah, I think what has impacted our business the most in terms of just retention and actually seeing our numbers improve over time is it honestly, like this could be simple, but I don't think a lot of people are doing it. It is messaging. Mm-hmm. It is doing your damnedest to try and make your subscription program not set it and forget it. So even though, yes, they're going through a recurring monthly purchase and when we send an email out, a subscriber knows that they're a subscriber. Like they are just reminded. And it might just require you to tweak the last two sentences in an email. Thanks for your subscription. It means the world to us. And that's the only thing that's different.
Right.
I mean, that is to me the easiest step
Absolutely.
to avoid the set it and forget it mentality that your customer is in. And it will also take some pressure off of you needing to find ways to, well, how do I build a totally separate sale for my subscribers? Because that can get a little complicated on the
It
backside.
can. Yes.
So that's like the biggest like unlock that I think we've experienced, and I think others can experience.
Do you guys lean a little bit into the carnivore element of people like being meat eaters, that type of diet, or that from a branding perspective? Is that something that's part of your email strategy and everything on the back end as well?
Yeah, for us, like we are a voice for meat during a time when it's being wrongfully vilified. So
I
that
love
is
it.
our brand.
I love it.
People really love buying carnivore snacks because they feel like they are being a voice for meat.
Right.
And so, absolutely, our copywriter has been with me since the Kickstarter. We're pretty aggressive. We're funny. Very pro-America brand. So we've really built a really engaged audience. And the fact that we offer memberships and subscriptions, like if you can really execute on the brand side and people understand what they're doing and what they're a part of when they're buying from you, like
Right.
those parts of your business are going to organically perform better.
Right.
So there's a lot, man. There's just a lot of angles that impact your subscription that I think sometimes are often underlooked. You know, when our worst numbers for retention on the subscription side were actually the last 2 months, like these last 2 months. And
Interesting.
I was almost 100% sure on why that was happening. We started to get an influx of complaints on quality, something we weren't accustomed to. And it became very clear that we were having a quality control issue. And I made the conscious decision of scaling the business back 50%, and just fully focusing all of our time on product and
Right.
figuring out what the hell was going wrong. And we figured it out. It took 3 weeks. There was two main issues. And I will tell you that taking a step back and making sure product is being executed on, right? That they're getting what they expect will
Right.
also be arguably the most impactful to your retention.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of expectation is often overlooked because from the brand side, we feel like, we're selling a weight loss pill. So you're taking this because you want to lose weight. Well, a lot of people might be buying that because they've tried 10 other things and you seem like the one thing that's supposed to work overnight. Or you're the one thing they're going to be able to do with this part of their lifestyle or other things. And so when we understand the customer expectation, we're able to find out whether we can deliver on those or not. You mentioned stuff on the brand side too. I mean, I remember when we were on that call we had Carnivore Snax and a vegan vitamin brand on the call. And if you remember, I said kind of the same thing. You're both at polar end opposites from an audience standpoint, but you both have an opportunity to rely very heavily on branding because you're speaking to people that care about a very specific type of thing, right? And so that's another, I think, opportunity for anyone listening out there is like, even if it's just something like you're selling vitamin C, like if you could start to identify what your audience cares about and why they're going to want to take it and what they're going for, it makes it easier to make emails and SMS messages and product pages, inserts and packaging that's all just a little bit more on brand. It's all a little bit more special. And it's people can throw out the word personalized because it's not really personalized, but it's personalized to your audience and it feels personalized and they're going to resonate with that. Mark, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but again, for anybody who's out there, if you have not had an opportunity to check out Carnivore Snax with an X at the end, I'll drop the link to the site in the show notes. And I would give Mark a recommend on following on Twitter because he's definitely doing some fun things, some great things with Carnivore Snax, and he's worth following.
Man, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.